Preston, got your Mustang down here in the shop. Just want to let you know I'm done with it.
Wow, I wasn't expecting you to be finished this early.
No, sir, not finished. Done. I've done all I'm going to do to this thing, and I want it out of my garage.
What?
I want this thing out of my garage by the end of the day tomorrow. I can't stand the sight of this thing.
Okay, do I owe you anything?
Well, you know, you can owe me an apology. I tried telling you I don't work on the Ford. Hey, you know what? I'm going to send you the bill to this rash I got. How about that?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Daminator channel and another episode of Project ZRS. In the last episode where we left off, we were able to source a T56 transmission to make this ZRS project an actual 6-speed car. And the good thing about it was I didn't have to drive 10 hours round trip to pick up those parts. We also picked up some headers, a drive shaft, and a couple other random parts that we might need for this project. So I'm really thankful and praise the Lord that we picked up that big piece of the puzzle. So that's where we left off. Where we're going today is we're actually going to finally pull some parts off of the Z28 roller, specifically the front spindles. We're going to pull those off, get those prepped. Going to probably replace all the bushings, ball joints and stuff, and get those all painted nice and looking good. And we're going to throw those onto my 97 RS. And then the next thing we're going to do is pull the rear end out of this thing, get that all cleaned up and nice and ready to go, and throw that on the car as well. And once those parts are on the car, then we'll put the SS wheels on it, get the front end aligned, and have that thing looking good for a little while until we get the motor and transmission ready to go in. So without further ado, let's get some parts off this roller. Let's go wrenching, boys. Okay, so this is really my first good look at this car. I've basically brought it home and parked it. I don't know what condition the ball joints are in, or the upper control arm, bushings, or any of that. So if the bearing, ball joints, and bushings are shot, then I'll go ahead and replace them. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but first I'm just going to take all of this off and we'll get a closer look at it. Okay, I've already sprayed all the bolts and nuts and stuff with some PB Blaster. The tools I'm going to be using today are my dynamic tools. I just picked these up not that long ago, and I've been itching to use them. So we're going to be using these today to remove all the stuff. Pretty nice set, laser engraved, pretty nice looking stuff. So I'm looking forward to using these. So if you want some more information about these dynamic tools, I'll put a link in the description. You guys can check them out. I think my first order of business is going to be to remove this tie rod end link. Sometimes these cotter pins can be a real booger to remove. This one thankfully wasn't too bad. This castle nut on top of this thing's an 18mm. I'm gonna brag on this tool for a second. This is a really smooth ratchet. I have another brand, pretty big brand you'll find in most stores, that's locked up on me a couple times. In fact, I actually took the whole little kit back and got it replaced with a new one, and that one was doing the same thing. So I really don't particularly care to use that one anymore. But I like this set. It's got the nice 6-sided sockets. Anyway. All right, now the fun part, the end links. Got one of these. This lower control arm, the opening isn't very open, if that makes any sense. The bolt for this thing is up against the side of the hole, so I can't really get a socket on it, which would be a lot more ideal. I think I might have to get my air compressor out. Use my air compressor impact. I think it just needed about 90 psi. Yeah, that was a bit crusty. Getting some new ones of those for sure. I'll take this brake caliper off. Two 18mm bolts holding this caliper bracket in place. Use good old power of physics with this breaker bar. I love this ratchet. It is just so smooth. Brake pads look new. Disconnect that brake line and then we'll get rid of that whole thing. Probably should have cracked this with it still on the rotor. Throw that 18mm back in there. I'm pretty sure all the brake fluid's leaked out of this thing. Most of it anyway. These brake calipers have the dual pistons. My RS just has a single piston. And I think the rotor is a little bit bigger in diameter. So definitely looking forward to the upgraded brakes. Get this cotter pin out of here. These stinking cotter pins. These things can be really difficult to remove. But I guess, really, isn't that what you want? You don't want this ball joint coming apart while you're doing 150 down the highway. That was easy, thank goodness. This upper ball joint's a 15. This lower ball joint castle nut's a 13/16. I'll slip that tie rod back up in there, put that castle nut on there, that way this thing doesn't move. There we go. Physics in action, folks. Physics in action. Stay in school, kids. Learn your science. Okay, I disconnected the speed sensor from the back of the hub. Okay, this is ready to pop out. Where's my yammer? Okay, one Z28 spindle. Let's hear this thing. I believe this hub is new. It's pretty tight and there's no crunchies, so I probably don't have to replace that, so that's a good thing. Save me some money there. I'm gonna take the bolts out of the lower part of the strut. The head of the bolt is a 13 and the nut is a 15. Now we'll just remove the 3 or 4 bolts on the top of this strut and then the strut comes out. So we've got these 2 nuts here and then it looks like Torx bolts and there are nuts on the underside of those, so we'll figure out how to get that out, but let's get these nuts off of here. These are 13 as well. I'm gonna set these nuts right here, don't let me forget them, okay? Now I gotta figure out how to get these out. With that master cylinder in the way, that's gonna be tricky. We'll figure it out. We always seem to figure it out. Whew, boy, I don't know how I got that bolt out from underneath this master cylinder there. That was an exercise in patience right there, let me tell you folks. Thank goodness it wasn't rusted in place or else that would have been a complete nightmare, not just a nightmare. So we're ready to drop the strut out from underneath this thing. I forgot that the control arm is part of this assembly. Pretty crusty up there. That looks like an absolute nightmare. So a new strut assembly is probably in order for this thing. So the nut on the end of this little control arm bolt is a 13/16. Got a box end wrench on the bottom of it. I'm gonna use my foot and see if I can break this free. You see this lower control arm shifts. That's adjustable so that the front end can be aligned properly. There's a 13/16 nut on the underside of this control arm. You gotta be kidding. I'm not kidding. I mean, I'm looking right at it. The bolt won't come out of here because of the steering rack. Unbelievable. This one comes out no problem. Thank you, GM. Appreciate it. I will win. Okay, sheer madness. Finally got the bolt out. Told you I'd win. I had to take the bolt out of the steering rack and pry that forward with my pry bar in order to get that to come out. Thank goodness. Well, so that's everything out of there. I'm gonna go ahead and tackle this other one now that I know exactly what's coming off of here and how to get it off. It should go quicker, but we'll see. It's always something, you know. Let's go wrench it. All right, feels good to finally get some work done on this project. Instead of just gathering parts and talking about it, we're actually doing something. Glad to see some empty wheel wells right there and a pile of parts in my garage. All right, well, we're back at this today. We're gonna take the rear end out of this car. First, I gotta move some stuff out of the way and get this car jacked up. So let's get right to it. Try to remove this end link. Again, these things can be boogers and end up having to cut them off. Well, I ended up using my breaker bar and a box end wrench and just twisted on it by hand and it snapped the bolt. Beats cutting it. Not ideal, but it is the result we're looking for. Off the car. Remove this nut on the lower shock bolt. This is a 19mm. Gotta love power assisted tools. Okay, this is an 18mm nut. I've got an 18mm wrench on the other side of this bolt. Looks like that's the bracket for the emergency brake. Okay, this panhard bars bolt and nut is also an 18. Okay, I'm going to lower this rear differential. I suppose a set of lowering springs would be in order, but not on this road I live on. Now I see why they call it the panhard bar. It's hard to get off. Okay, wow. That emergency brake was really difficult to get off. I pulled this spring back and grabbed hold of it right there and pried it off the hook that it was on. And then this bracket that it sits in right here, you have to push these tabs in all around here to get it to come out of there. And then you pull back, it comes out of that bracket. So, real pain in the rear. Well, that certainly was a pleasure to have to do again. Thank goodness that's off. All right, I gotta disconnect the brake lines and this thing should be ready to come out. All right, finally got those silly things off. Okay, the only thing really that's holding this thing up are these emergency brake cables. They'll have to be fished out while I draw this thing out here. All right, well, here goes nothing. I don't know why I had this jug under here. Didn't catch a single drop. That's the thought that counts. I am such an idiot. Can you guys see why I'm an idiot? How in the world am I gonna get this out of here with the tires on? Idiot. You guys probably saw that. Remember screaming at me in the screen. I didn't hear you, sorry. If the car was jacked up higher, then we'd be in business. But it ain't. Idiot. All right, take two. Probably wasn't good on the patio. Don't tell my wife. Okay. I think I will take that bracket off. It's not that hard, just 4 bolts. These are 21mm bolts and nuts. Everything's pretty greasy down through here. gonna sit here for a little bit until I get the time to clean this up. There's quite a bit of grease on it. I'll probably put a new gasket on the rear diff cover, clean up all this oil, wire brush everything, and then just give it a coat of Rust-Oleum or something. I'm so glad to have this finally out of the car. I'm looking forward to having rear disc brakes on my RS. So that is exciting to have this progress made. Got a lot of work ahead of me, and the hardest part about it is finding the time to do it. I don't know, it looks pretty good. Think I ought to convert it to a hovercraft?
I want that.
Well, anyway, that's all the work I'm going to be able to get to today. Stay tuned. We're going to be taking care of all these parts, getting them cleaned up, new bushings, paint them all, and then we'll be ready to swap those onto my RS and get the SS wheels on it. It's going to look really good. Still yet to come with this project. I've got to remove the engine out of the Silverado, but I do have a couple of videos I'm wanting to do with that truck, so that's going to be paused for just a moment. So anyway, that's going to do it for today's video. I want to thank you for watching. Check out the channel. I've got all kinds of videos, muffler comparisons, repairs, a lot of fun. If you're so inclined, hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you're notified when I post new content. As always, thanks for watching. God bless. Be sure and hit that like switch on your way out. See you next time.